The allure of any superhero is their ability to put the interests of the people before themselves, all whilst remaining stylishly kitted out in the lurid lycra and in possession of abilities that we'd literally sell our very souls for. They forgo the comfort and safety of a normal existence to battle evil, and they'll do whatever it takes for the betterment of others. That said, the world's superheroes weren't forged from the most solid and upstanding beginnings, but what greater motivation is there for combating a deep, dark secret than masking that pain with heroic bravado? The compulsion to uphold the peace for those lovable do-gooders in tights could be considered a form of therapy, a technique for reconciling the demons of their past, shaking the skeletons from their closets, and letting go of some ugly truths. Because while they might stand for all that is just and commendable now, there were some moments in their pasts they'd rather you didn't know about. When we're talking shameful, it might just be that they legit did something they should be ashamed of, or it could just be shamefully weird and terrible storytelling. Golden Age of comics was a crazy time, dude, I swear. So with that in mind, I'm Will for What Culture, and this is 10 superheroes you didn't know had shameful origins. Number 10, Martian Manhunter. DC Comics' favourite Martian Manhunter had it rough from the get-go. A family man living happily on Mars with his wife and daughter, life couldn't be better. But then, in, classic comic book fashion, shit hit the fan and his wife and daughter died in a cosmic holocaust. Also, the catastrophic event wiped out every other member of his race. Subject to a torment none of us will ever face, he sort of lost his marbles, and teetering on the brink of madness, he was suddenly transported to Earth. Upon his arrival and before his introduction to the Justice League of America, he met scientist Saul Erdel, the man responsible for summoning him to Earth. And instead of offering an obligatory thank you for saving me from a lonely life of blistered palms, he gave Erdel another gift, a massive heart attack brought on by the sight of Martian Manhunter, killing his savior instantly. Which isn't really the best start for a superhero, but he didn't do it on purpose really, so yeah, that's why he's at number 10. Number 9, Catwoman. Always at loggerheads with Bruce Wayne, Selina Kyle and her alter ego Catwoman are rarely seen leaving the vicinity without having sneakily nabbed something inherently valuable. That's part of her charm and what makes her a useful asset for Bruce Wayne when he's in a tough spot that his gravelly voice or cumbersome car can't get him out of. Sure, she isn't so much a superhero as an anti-hero, but she's definitely more good than bad. Her darkest origin was explored in the Year One series from the late 80s, where she was working as a dominatrix prostitute in Gotham's East End. Under the watchful eye of their abusive pimp Stan, Selina mothers a young co-worker, Holly, and helps her escape prostitution. Clearly unhappy with a deserted street corner, Stan kidnaps Selina's sister. Selina then murders him. Just another classic prostitute murders pimp and then dresses up as a cat for the rest of her life story. It's a tale as old as time. Number 8, Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner's roots are regarded pretty much as common knowledge. He was exposed to lethal radiation when the first gamma bomb test went awry. His body was plastered with radioactive particles, which, oddly enough, didn't kill him, yet imbued him with the power to rage hard as the jolly green giant beast should he get angry. But there's more to it than that. His father, atomic physicist Dr. Brian Banner, hated him. An angry alcoholic, Brian despised his own son and became jealous over the close bond he shared with his mother, Rebecca Banner. Fearful that his own research had affected his son deeply on a genetic level, Dr. Banner lost it. He began abusing his son. When his wife stepped in to intervene, he murdered her and was sent to live out the rest of his days in an insane asylum. Reeling from the shock, Bruce became withdrawn at school and while living at home with his aunt, a child prodigy and shy. It was only a matter of time before he came under attack from school bullies. But here's the cherry atop the sad, sad sundae. Bruce actually built a bomb and planted it in the basement of his school to teach them all a lesson. Thankfully it didn't go off, but still. Jesus. Number 7, Professor X. Charles Francis Xavier, also more commonly known as the ever-reliable, upstanding citizen of both mutant and mankind, Professor X, and the opener of Professor X's school for gifted youngsters. One student he brought into the fold was Jean Grey, a telepath traumatized after vicariously experiencing the death of a friend. Bringing her under his wing, he helps the young teen develop her telekinetic abilities, but as revealed in the original X-Men comic series issue number 4, it seems the old professor got more than he bargained for. He fell in love with her. Now, love is grand and all, but for a figure like Xavier to have quelled his truest romantic feelings for a girl young enough to be his daughter or maybe even granddaughter is pretty creepy. Creepier still is when Jean finds out via the Onslaught series she has sown the Professor's inner monologue and, understandably, completely freaks out. To be honest, it's just the kind of thing that you'd see in the tabloids these days, like with what is happening. You know, first Kevin Spacey, now Professor X. Number 6, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. In the mainstream Marvel universe known as Earth 616, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are actually the daughter and son of their father Magneto. As the spawn of such evil mutant genes, they followed in Daddy's footsteps and recruited into his Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. They caused quite a bit of havoc for the X-Men before turning to the good side and joining the Avengers. However, in Marvel's revamped Ultimate series, which sought to reimagine their most famous franchises, they exist in an alternative universe known as Earth 1610. In this spin-off universe, Wolverine sleeps with Magneto's woman, Magda, who then gives birth to twins. The possibility of Logan having spawned 2 kids with the bride of Magneto is highly likely. What's then revealed in Ultimates number 3 is a scene wherein Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver consummates their sibling relationship, while Wolverine watches. Yeah, there's not many words to describe the sheer creepiness of a dad watching his own possible offspring, you know, getting at it like rabbits. So yeah, comic books. Number 5, Gamora. So let's hark back to her comic book origins, which were rather bleak. The sole survivor of Zen Hubris, an alien humanoid race, Gamora watched as her entire species were wiped out by a load of interfering religious zealots. Luckily, Thanos intervened and rescued her from a gruesome demise, escorting her to the safety of the past. 2 decades into the past, actually. He equipped her with several abilities and tweaked with her perceptions, so she never really realised she was committing evil acts. Not exactly a cracking start to a new life, and kind of similar to the films, but here's the kind of big thing: even though she had ample opportunities, she never took advantage of her time in the past to save Zen Hubris from their grisly fate. She could have saved her entire race from extinction, but, you know, she just didn't. As for why? Dunno. I guess she didn't want to. Number 4, The Runaways. So if you thought the X-Men had it bad, check out this other Marvel troupe of prepubescent superheroes, The Runaways. Their sole reason for being was formed in the fiery pits of hell, or it probably felt like it to them. Embarking on what was to be a normal night out, the gang of 6 friends witnessed their parents united in a horrific act, the ritual sacrifice of a teenage girl. After spying them in the throes of murder, the truth of their parents is revealed. Turns out that they are an evil alliance of mad scientists, alien invaders, dark wizards, time travelers, and mob bosses who call themselves the Pride. The children of the Pride come together to form their own band of do-gooders, hoping to bring down their parents after coincidentally learning they were bestowed with their abilities and powers. It's kind of a downbeat note to begin a life of superhero antics, but luckily one of them winds up in possession of a telepathic dinosaur. So, shameful parents on one hand, but telepathic dinosaur on the other. I reckon that kind of evens out, but I'll leave that with you. Number 3, Rorschach. Hero, anti-hero, defining a superhero can become a pretty fussy venture. Rorschach exemplifies this distinction. His humble beginnings started on the streets of New York as a rapscallion with too much time in his hands, and saw the poor lad on the periphery of some pretty evil acts way too often. Going by his birth name of Walter Kovacs, he was hired to investigate the kidnapping of a 6-year-old girl named Blair Rorschach, do you get it? Following up on a lead, he made his way to an abandoned dressmaker's shop and discovered the girl's underwear burning away in a stove and 2 dogs gnawing on a human femur. He finally snapped when he realized the store's owner had killed the young girl and fed her to his dogs. He killed the 2 animals with a meat cleaver, and when Grice came home, completely denying his involvement in the murder, he threw their bloody corpses at him, handcuffed him to a pipe, doused him in kerosene, and left him with a saw in his hand. Then he lit a match. Okay, so Grice deserved it, yeah, 100% he deserved it, but the dogs? Come on, man, they didn't know. Still, I mean, Rorschach's a badass, he probably didn't care, but, you know, still. Number 2, Rogue. Rogue, you know, that southern girl from the X-Men film? She can't have had such a bad past, can she? Well, she did. Before joining the X-Men, her very first comic appearance was in the 1981 Avengers Annual, where Rogue serves alongside Mystique in the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Being a part of such a coalition permits the mutant the Reign to cause any number of headaches for the good guys. Following orders from her foster mother / impossible boss Mystique, she tracked down Ms. Marvel and waited for her to return home from shopping, so she could usurp all of her highly sought after abilities. Once their struggle had ended and Rogue was greenlit at 100% fully charged, she chucked Ms. Marvel off the side of the Golden Gate Bridge. If that wasn't bad enough, she also nicked Thor's powers at one point during a battle. In general, she made life very, very difficult for the Avengers and X-Men. And probably the most tricksy part of it is no one seems to remember anymore since the 2000 X-Men film. Number 1. Wolverine. Wolverine's past is a source of hot debate and has even spawned 2 spin-off origins. He was even said at one time to be an actual mutated Wolverine cub. Yeah, actually. What's definitely known though is his kidnapping by the Weapon X Committee, who hold him against his will and infuse his bones with unbreakable adamantium. This is standard X-Men lore. One thing that's not so widely discussed is his upbringing. As a young lad named James Howlett, born into the affluent lifestyle of John and Elizabeth Howlett, Wolvie began to grapple with his rage and his retractable claws. After witnessing the family's old groundskeeper break into his family's abode and murder his father in cold blood, young Wolvie loses it. Busting out his bony claws, he kills the intruder. As origins go, it's not that far out of the norm so far, but that's not strictly true, because after killing the man, he discovers that the burglar was in fact his biological father, Thomas Logan, and his mother's true love. She can't face Wolvie after this, so she kicks him out, then blows her head off with a shotgun. That's a heaping pile of tragedy right there to kick off a superhero career. No wonder it took nearly 30 years for Wolvie's origin story to surface.